Welcome to the Book Summary channel with Insight Shelf. Dear friends, life is a combination of relationships. Communication between people is an indispensable need. The book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is not merely about how to behave just to win people's hearts. The principles in this book only work when they come from your genuine sincerity. How to Win Friends and Influence People does not offer tricks or tactics to help us create falsehoods for selfish purposes. One remarkable thing is that this famous book has never become outdated over time. Each generation perceives and discovers from the book ways of thinking, ways of behaving and living in new, interesting, and highly useful ways for their own lives. First, we will unveil the secret deep within the human heart. The most profound principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Not just a desire or wish, but a craving. Everyone loves to be praised, even the most famous individuals. Those people who have achieved great glory in history also desire this. President George Washington, the explorer Columbus, or the great writer Shakespeare all wanted to be called by the titles and the most glorious honors of their lives. Empress Catherine the Great refused to open any letter if it did not have the inscription outside, "To the mighty Empress." Billionaires only agreed to fund the Antarctic expedition in 1928 with the sole condition that their names be given to the ice mountain ranges there. When we wear fashionable clothes, use branded items, drive trendy cars, use stylish mobile phones, talk about our intelligent children, that is when we express the craving to appear important in front of others. The way each person expresses their importance clearly reveals their true character. Most young criminals express a very large ego. They join gangs, participate in criminal activities, use heroin and ecstasy to assert themselves, to be seen by society as superheroes. Some even make themselves disabled to gain pity and attention from others, to feel important. The craving for appreciation is as essential as food and sleep for everyone, but it is rarely fulfilled. Therefore, those who can satisfy this craving sincerely will be able to control the actions of others and easily achieve success. Charles Schwab was appointed by Andrew Carnegie as the first president of the United States Steel Corporation in 1921, when he was only 38 years old. Not because he was a genius or had more knowledge about steel than others, but because he had the ability to win people over. His secret was his ability to create enthusiasm in those who worked with him. He helped them bring out their greatest strengths by recognizing, appreciating, and encouraging. He said that throughout his life, he had never met anyone who did their job well without the support of others. The mistake of many managers is that if they don't like something, they will scold their employees. But if they like something, they say nothing. Unhappy families often lack praise and appreciation from family members for each other. We can provide them with delicious food, but often leave their souls starving. Sincere praise and appreciation is one of the first secrets to success that everyone should apply both in work and daily life. Sometimes, a timely word of praise or encouragement will have a tremendous impact that even the person giving the praise could not have anticipated. Praise always increases good behaviors and reduces bad behaviors. At this point, you might be thinking that the book is leading us to become flatterers, always saying grandiose but meaningless words. Although some people crave appreciation so much that they swallow any praise like a starving person swallowing both the vegetable and the worm attached to it, This book completely does not encourage flattery. The author is talking about a new way of living. False flattery is like counterfeit money. It causes trouble when we pass it on to someone else. The boundary between appreciation and flattery is very clear. One is sincere, the other is insincere. One comes from the heart, the other only from the mouth. One is selfless and sincere, the other is selfish with a purpose. One is felt and touches people, the other is condemned by everyone. Everyone who works with you is also human, and they all crave recognition, appreciation, and respect for what they have done. Show your recognition through practical actions alongside sincere words of appreciation. If we want to have true friends, then think and do something for them. Give them time, energy, and selfless care. A company wanting to increase customer loyalty needs to show sincere care for its customers. An artist who does not care for and respect their audience will find that the audience does not love their works or their performances. In life, especially during difficult times, people often have a great need to be listened to by someone. They don't need the listener to give advice. They just need someone to listen with goodwill so they can pour out their heart. In communication, listening is one of the most respectful ways we can show to the person we're talking to make them feel their importance. Even the most aggressive people will soften their tone before someone who listens patiently and with goodwill. When trying to persuade others, many people tend to talk a lot. This is one of the mistakes. You should let others express their views. You should only ask and listen to their answers. If you don't agree with someone, you shouldn't interrupt them. They won't be able to pay attention to you when they still have too much to say. You should listen patiently with an attitude of care and encourage them to share all their thoughts. The most important thing in any conversation is to let others express themselves. After expressing their concerns, the other person will feel satisfied with themselves and their knowledge. At that point, they will naturally listen to us. People will trust you not because you talk a lot, but because you know how to listen. To lead others, you know how to stand behind and serve. If you act superior, people will oppose you. If you yield to others, they will become your friends. Anyone who had the chance to meet President Theodore Roosevelt was amazed by his vast knowledge. His secret was that before meeting anyone, he thoroughly researched the issues he knew that person would be particularly interested in. The fastest way to a person's heart is to discuss what they care about most. In genuinely caring for others, there is one action with immense power that you cannot overlook. That is a smile. A smile has an incredibly powerful impact, even when people cannot see it. Telephone companies across the United States have a training program called The Power of a Smile. Telephone operators are required to always smile when answering the phone because the caller can hear their smile through their voice. Those who know how to smile tend to know how to manage, sell effectively, create happiness, and raise good children. A smile conveys many messages far beyond words. Although emotions are beyond the control of will, if you smile when you're sad, that sadness will be greatly dispelled. That is an indirect way to adjust emotions. The Chinese have a famous proverb: if you don't have a bright smile, don't open a shop. A smile is your goodwill ambassador, delivering wordless messages far beyond any spoken words. Smile at each other, even if it's someone you don't yet know. When meeting someone new, find out their full name as well as some details about their family, work, and their viewpoints. That is the most effective way to remember their name. This is very important and useful for you because a person's name is the sweetest sound, most cherished, and important to them. Simply remembering someone's name and pronouncing it correctly is giving them a subtle compliment and very effective for them. This is also the secret that helped Jim Farley remember the names of about 50,000 people and achieve success as well as the affection of many people. With this very secret, he helped bring Franklin Roosevelt to the White House when managing the presidential campaign in 1932. Whether they are a waiter or a CEO, a name always brings about wonders when we call it correctly. People are very proud of their names and try to leave their mark at all costs. Libraries and museums have the richest collections, thanks to those who don't want their names to fade from the memory of humanity. Alongside the craving for appreciation is the fear of condemnation. A prison warden once shared that even the most dangerous criminals, when convicted, still don't think they are bad. They always find ways to justify their illegal and unethical actions. From this example, we can see that criticizing someone is a futile act. Criticizing or insulting others never awakens or changes them for the better. When criticized, people often become defensive and justify themselves. They develop feelings of frustration and discouragement. A person may be completely wrong, but rarely admits they are wrong. People seldom evaluate right and wrong clearly with reason, but often act based on emotions, prejudices, and especially their inherent pride. If the criticism touches their pride, causing them to feel hurt, it will create anger and resentment, leading to dangerous consequences. Those we criticize and condemn will surely find reasons to justify themselves and condemn us in return. Instead of forcing others to do what we want, the simpler way is to let them do what they want. We should not condemn others so that we ourselves are not condemned. At a construction site, when the supervisor used authority to force workers to wear safety helmets, at first, everyone reluctantly complied. But as soon as the supervisor turned away, they took off their helmets. Later, instead of criticizing and forcing, the supervisor asked them if the helmets were uncomfortable or if something was wrong. At the same time, he reminded them that when working, they should wear helmets to avoid injury or danger in case of unexpected incidents. The result was that the number of workers wearing helmets increased without any objections or negative attitudes. Polite words break the monotony of daily life. They are also a sign of a polite and cultured person. During a meal, when the waitress brought whole chili peppers while the customer had requested ground chili, the customer said, "I'm sorry for troubling you, but I prefer ground chili." Immediately, the waitress replied, "It's no problem at all," and happily changed it for the customer because she felt respected. Besides the need for appreciation, people also crave sympathy and agreement from others. Many children like to get hurt or even deliberately injure themselves to gain attention and affection from adults. Adults often talk about their accidents, illnesses, their sufferings, sometimes exaggerating to gain attention, sympathy, or even pity. If loved, people will also know how to love and become more lovable. If you only focus on someone's flaws, it will make them worse. If you encourage them to strive for good things, they will surely achieve it. In life and work, disagreements are inevitable, but you can completely avoid arguments arising from those disagreements. Why should you avoid arguments? Because the ultimate result of any argument is that no one wins. If you argue just to win, it's a meaningless victory because you will never gain goodwill from the cooperation of the other party. You may be absolutely right in dominating an argument, but if you can't convince others, no matter how right you are, it's useless. Changing someone's opinion is very difficult, even under the most favorable conditions. Sometimes we easily change our opinions without any psychological resistance. But if someone says our opinion is wrong, we immediately tend to resist, blame others, and close the door to our hearts. When a conflict arises, there is a very useful secret. That is to admit your mistake first. Conceding is not lowering yourself. Admitting fault is not humiliating. Admitting your mistake first shows your respect for the other party, making them polite, open, and generous like you. They will also easily admit their mistakes because of your kindness. You should note that this admission of fault must be a sincere action, not pretending just to brush things off or deliberately admitting fault to appear superior in a patronizing way. If you have made a mistake, there's nothing better than honestly saying, "I was wrong." If someone is upset or resentful toward you, even if you provide the most justified reasons in the world, you cannot make them listen. Gentle attitudes, friendly behavior, and sincere praise can make people change their opinions easily rather than causing tension and discomfort. The most precious key is the key that can unlock people's hearts. Always remember that gentleness and kindness are more powerful than force and anger. Dentists often start their work with anesthesia because it helps patients avoid pain when having a tooth extracted. Similarly, leaders and managers need to remember to start the conversation with sincere praise, then point out others' mistakes. A manager, when seeing employees smoking right under a no smoking sign, approached and gave each one a cigar, then said, "You guys, if you smoke outside, I fully support smoking." This is a very effective indirect way to give feedback. Humans naturally have pride. Directly saying someone has made a mistake is the biggest mistake. Besides, you need to acknowledge your own mistakes before criticizing someone. If you criticize your son for smoking while you yourself are smoking, it will only make things worse. You will only get the boy to quit smoking when you quit smoking with him. In every case, you must always preserve others' dignity. You have no right to diminish the value of a person in their own eyes. A company, when having to dismiss a manager who was skilled in expertise but not good at management, instead of firing, they transferred the manager to an advisory position with a new, respectful title. Everyone felt satisfied. No one likes to be ordered, even if the order has a good purpose. It still causes discomfort, even resentment. Before persuading someone to do something, ask yourself, what can I do to make them want to do this willingly? The only way to influence others is to talk about what they want and guide them on how to achieve it. If you want your teenage son to stop smoking, talk about things he wants to hear. For example, he might not find a girlfriend due to bad breath, or he won't win in the upcoming football match due to poor health from smoking. In management, if you want employees to implement an idea, suggest it so that the employees voice the idea themselves. Then they will see the idea as their own. They will love it and have a strong desire to make it a reality. In business, successful salespeople are those who make customers feel they are buying, not being sold to. Don't try to sell what you have. Focus on selling what the customer needs. A secret in communication to gain high agreement is when talking to people, you shouldn't start with points of difference. Instead, you can start by emphasizing the points both sides agree on. A great philosopher of the world once discovered that an initial yes response from someone will guide their thought process and decisions toward agreement. He often asked questions that the other person had to agree with. Then he continued to lead them from one agreement to another, until finally they willingly agreed with the opinion they had fiercely rejected just minutes before. Besides, to get someone to agree to do what you want, you also need to pay attention to how you present. In communication and work, an idea presented plainly will struggle to attract attention. An idea needs to be presented vividly, attractively, and interestingly. In the past, men often knelt to propose. No one required them to do so, but they did it anyway to create a romantic atmosphere before proposing, making the women feel touched and more likely to agree. A dish presented vividly will make diners clearly feel the chef's talent. A short story written vividly will make readers recognize the writer's skill with language. And an idea described vividly will make listeners feel the speaker's intelligence. When you believe you have a certain good quality, even if in reality you may not yet have it, you will act as if you already possess that quality. Similarly, if you want to encourage something in someone, act as if that thing is their outstanding characteristic. They will surely make extraordinary efforts to become so. In human interactions, how you treat someone will shape who they become. If you tell your children, spouse, or employees that they are foolish, clumsy, or incompetent, you destroy almost all their motivation to improve. But if instead you encourage and show confidence that they have untapped potential, they will surely strive to develop that potential that you have attributed to them. Another way to encourage good qualities in someone is to honor them. An employee in a grocery store was very lazy about labeling products, but after the company appointed her to a new role responsible for pricing all products, she immediately changed her attitude completely. Her motivation was to live up to the trust and honor the company had given her. The principles of interaction in this book are not tactics to manipulate people for personal gain. So don't be naive and think that we will always receive positive responses and favorable outcomes when approaching with these guidelines. But these principles will help you gain a more comprehensive view of how to interact with others, thereby adopting a more positive way of living and thinking. People tend to change their attitudes if we bring them joy sincerely. If you persistently practice these principles and genuinely care for those around you, your life will become more beautiful, smooth, and meaningful. Thank you for listening. See you in the next book summaries.